friends, welcome back. So today is episode 10. Yes, we are halfway through. So I think that I will use today's video to kind of go through some of the things that we talked about, have a review, and then we can look at where we stand in terms of this compassionate work together, and then where we are looking forward to learn more. So before we begin this reviewing exercise, I'm going to suggest you and invite you to imagine that you are somebody who are here to help you. You see, there are different parts of us. There is this part of us that's more like empowered and ready to help. Usually this is the part of ourselves that show up when we are helping other people. So today we are going to employ this part of us to help the other part of us that is overwhelmed by the clutter issue or feeling helpless. Okay? So to help us imagine that, or to help us remind ourselves to remember this is where we are coming from, I suggest that you could either put a hand on your shoulder. It's like saying, I got you. Or you can put one hand, whichever hand you like, on your heart. This is to say, yes, I know, I hear you, I understand. Okay, so let's begin. Let's begin by recognizing that you have a tricky brain. I'm not saying this just about you. Actually, everybody, every human being has a tricky brain that they did not choose. They did not design. It's just given to us. And each of us has the unique, our own specific kind of trickiness to work with. And for you, my friends who are struggling with letting go, having difficulties with hoarding or cluttering, my observation is that many of you are quite sensitive to lack, to not having enough. And as we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, we have this old brain that cares about having resources to survive, to reproduce, or to belong. And we also have this new brain that is more quote-unquote kind of like a smarty pants. And we can think, we can strategize, we can imagine, we can problem solve, abstract thinking, all those kinds of things. So when our sensitivity about not having enough is communicating with our new brain, then our new brain sometimes starts to imagine worst case scenarios. So a lot of people with hoarding issues think about, well, if I get rid of this now, I may need it later. And these are all the different kinds of scenarios I could need it later. Or a lot of times, my friends with hoarding issues, you're worried about whether you belong. You're concerned about whether you are worthy enough to belong. And that's a very valid, fundamental human concern. And sometimes the concern can hijack our thinking brain, and we start to think about how people may not like us, reasons why they will reject us. And similarly, we start to think about if we have these things, if I am very smart, if I own a lot of books, if I'm very useful, very resourceful, if I am able to provide solutions when people are in trouble, then I may have the opportunity to be liked. So in this way, our old brains that cares about resources, survival, and belonging works with our new brain that strategize to get our needs met. Actually, in this kind of lack, a place of lack, a place of scarcity, we start to accumulate, and we find it harder and harder to let go. So where does the sense of scarcity come from? I would invite you to really kindly and compassionately ask yourself this question. If it resonates with you, that deep down there seems to be a feeling of lack, not having enough, or not being enough. Like we talked about in some of the previous videos, a lot of our feelings, to our surprise, is actually learned. We learn to feel a certain way about ourselves by how we feel that other people feel about us. For instance, if you had been rejected, abused, disliked in the past, it's quite hard to shake free from those feelings. We didn't intentionally learn to feel a certain way about ourselves. However, some of the events that we have experienced have a very strong power to imprint certain emotions on us. It's just as normal as if anybody has been bitten by a dog, even though they think in their rational mind that most dogs are safe, but whenever they see a dog, they react. That's how our emotional systems are like. A lot of times it's automatic. Can we know that it's not our fault that this is so? Can we know that this is another part about this tricky human design that we are just now having to learn to work with? So finally, let's look again at the 3 motivational systems which we just talked about in episode 9. So if you remember, this you that you're trying to help here, he or she has a very active threat system. And again, this is not just you. Most people have the threat system being the most active ones. And so for you, the threat system usually shows up when you are making decisions about keeping or tossing. It's there to tell you you may be making a mistake now. It's there to tell you if this is a mistake, how terrible it's going to be. And the threat system also shows up when you are out and about, interacting with people. And sometimes the threat system hijacks the drive system, which is supposed to be there for us to help us gain necessary possessions, resources, and opportunities. But when the threat system is behind the drive system, it makes it feel so urgent. Like I have to hold on to this last sale opportunity. Sometimes, even it's not coming from the threat system, even if it's not coming from fear, it's coming from the thrill, the excitement, the high that you get from achieving, from getting a good deal, getting a good bargain. So the threat system and the drive system are quite activated. Not just for you, but for everybody. And so what we all need to work on is to boost up our soothing system. This is the system that helps us to stay open and vulnerable. This may sound so counterintuitive. By being vulnerable, it can soothe me. Well, actually, the way that we can look at it is that because we want to be able to work with difficult feelings, difficult conversations, difficult decision making, we want to use our soothing system to prepare a cushion for us, to prepare an internal environment that is safe for us to explore something unsafe. So this is not the kind of soothing like going to bed, taking drugs, drinking. This is the kind of soothing that helps you to open up, that gives you strength and courage to open up, to face discomfort. It's kind of like, so imagine when you have a bad day, when something really terrible happened at work. You don't cry at work. But as soon as you get into your car, it's that kind of quote-unquote safe place that supports you to open up and cry, have a good cry. So we want to prepare a cushion in you that soothes you when you are going through emotional difficulties. And that will be the focus of the second half of the series. We'll be building up compassion even more for you. And I look forward to sharing that with you.